Hello everyone, today is 4th of May, now it's 10 to 10 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment. And I will start with short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield, just a few points. First of all, South Donetsk sector of the front line. According to reports in Russian segment of internet, Russian forces further improved their positions in Rozhaina direction on Vremyovsky salient area. And Russian foothold is reaching now, according to those reports, central parts of the Urozhaina. I guess, as I said in previous updates, it's only a matter of weeks, possibly even days, and Russian side will establish control over the Urozhaina and possibly Staromayorskaya settlement right next to it. Also, by the way, in Avdiivka direction, Russian armed forces conducting clearing operation and the mining operation in Arkhangelskaya settlement on the northern side of Ocheretino. And a few minutes ago, I saw a video on one of the Telegram channels of withdrawal of Ukrainian units from Arkhangelskaya, and therefore I guess reports that I see about Russian control over this settlement probably is correct. We have some video confirmation of withdrawal of the Kyiv regime forces, and during the day, once clearing operation will be finished, I guess we will receive additional information that will confirm Russian control over the Arkhangelskaya. And when it comes to Chisov Yar, northern flank of Donetsk sector, another major hotspot on the battlefield, some military experts already are saying that battle for Chisov Yar has begun, but I have a little different reading of the big picture. Kyiv regime sent a huge number of reservists towards Chisov Yar, and I don't see any reason why would Russian forces now rush developments. They can take time and encircle as much as possible Canal district of Chisov Yar, for example, which is located on the eastern part of this irrigation channel, and encirclement already completed on the southern side. Now Russian forces probably will concentrate on the northern flank to reach Kalinina and establish control over this settlement. And well, then Russian artillery, by the way, Russian long-range artillery, Russian missile forces and drone operators will take care of grouping of Ukrainian forces inside the Chisov Yar. And I can see how Russian army is using Chisov Yar as another trap for Kyiv regime forces, like Bakhmut was previously, like Avdiivka was just a little time ago. And I don't really see reason why would or why should Russian forces rush their offensive operations right now. It does not make any sense to me, but yet again, I'm no military expert. How should I know? But that's my reading of the situation, that major offensive on Chisov Yar itself have not begun yet, and Russian side probably will take time, at least a couple of more weeks, and only then, once Ukrainian formations or Kyiv regime's formations in, let's say, Canal district and on other parts of Chisov Yar also will be decimated by these long-range strikes, then probably Russian ground forces will begin their operations inside the city itself. That makes sense to me. But yet again, a number of big channels, military experts already are saying that battle for Chisov Yar has begun. They know better, I guess. They are military experts, not me, but I'm sharing you my understanding of the situation. And this is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. The initiative is in Russian hands, of course, all along the front line, and Kyiv regime never had and will never have any chances to achieve any breakthroughs on any of the directions. It's just too obvious. I will continue with some other news. RIA Novosti's report that Russian air defense systems shut down 4 ATACMS long-range tactical missiles over the Crimea during the last night. For this moment, no reports about casualties on the ground or more or less significant damage. I remind you, dear friends, that day before yesterday, Russian armed forces shot down 6 ATACMS missiles, and some of those missiles had cluster warheads. And therefore, local authorities were warning people, residents, to be extremely cautious and don't to approach anything suspicious. And because of that, bomblets from cluster warheads were spread around the area where they were shut down, where missiles were shut down. And I would not be surprised at all if warnings will be, or maybe already have been given to locals today also, because it is highly likely that Kyiv regime this time also used missiles with the cluster warheads. Of course, if any additional information on this topic during the day, I will share that information on my Telegram channel and then in the next updates. RIA Novosti's report that according to Russian underground or Russian partisans in the Kharkov region, last night about 1 o'clock, Russian forces conducted precise strike on one of their military industrial companies that still operates in Kharkov, and their warehouse were destroyed not far away from Osnova metro station in a district of Promzona. Promzona will be industrial district if we translate it, and according to Russian partisans, warehouse where Kyiv regime was storing prepared, already built drones were completely obliterated, destroyed. I guess Kyiv regime lost at least dozens or possibly few hundred, at least few hundred drones. RT is reporting that, as I mentioned in yesterday's second update on my Patreon, and also in headlines, yesterday's episode of headlines, Russian defense minister made quite interesting statements about developments on the line of contact, about progress of special military operation. Let's go through this information now. So Ukrainian military losses since the beginning of this year have surpassed 111,000 troops, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said on Friday, as he shared Moscow's latest estimates from the conflict. Russian forces continue to break up Ukrainian defensive positions along their entire front line, the senior official reported during the ministerial meeting. Russia's territorial gains this year have amounted already to 547 square kilometers. Well, don't tell this to Western ruling class and Western media outlets, by the way. Let's continue. Shoigu accused the US and its allies of pressuring Kyiv into disregarding the cost of the continuing fighting. As a result, Ukraine suffered about 1,000 casualties daily throughout April. The minister claimed Kyiv has ramped up its mobilization efforts due to high attrition. Shoigu added, claiming that Ukrainians unwilling to fight are being forced to the front line and certain deaths. The Russian defense chief accused the leadership of Kyiv of sacrificing citizens for the sake of continuing Western financial and military assistance. In addition to inflicting significant casualties, Russian forces have also destroyed some 21,000 heavy weapons operated by Ukrainian forces, Shoigu stated. In April, Shoigu estimated Ukrainian casualties as approaching 500,000 since their hostilities with Russia started in February 2022. And by the way, these estimations are quite conservative. I believe in reality, Kyiv regime forces had casualties on part of Ukraine, on part of Kyiv regime, probably are close to a million at this point. Close to a million. That's my personal understanding of the situation, and I'm talking about killed and wounded personnel. It's at least a million, maybe even more, because usually during the military conflicts, statistics are, experts are saying that for every killed personnel there is at least 3 to 5 wounded personnel. And many experts, many military experts from Russia, from the West, by the way, are saying constantly that Kyiv regime already already lost 500 to 600 military personnel, KIA, killed in action. And if that's the case, by the way, if that's the case, then casualty numbers, overall casualty numbers, definitely must be more than a million and a half. Anyways, I wonder how long Ukrainian society will obey orders from this criminal terrorist regime in Kyiv, and when they will say, when people in Ukraine will say enough is enough, Russia is not threat for us, and we are not willing no more to fight and die for you criminals in Kyiv and for your Western masters and their geopolitical agenda. At some point, society has to wake up, man. This is unbelievable numbers that we are talking about that Kyiv regime has lost. And of course, by the way, Russian forces have casualties also. And this was absolutely unnecessary. Absolutely unnecessary, but Western ruling class unfortunately managed to provoke this conflict. Let's continue, and RT is also reporting that, well, top advisor for Zelensky, Mikhail Podolyak, is basically demanding from Brussels, from EU, decisions regarding Ukrainian male refugees. And well, let's go through this news also. EU member states need to make a joint decision on repatriating Ukrainians who are dodging the country's military draft. President Vladimir Zelensky's most senior advisor, Mikhail Podolyak, has declared. He made the remarks to local media on Thursday. Kyiv has repeatedly recited the conscription-linked issue in the recent weeks as it struggles with the manpower shortages on the battlefield. And then, quote, we definitely need a uniform European decision on this issue. It looks odd that Ukraine is bleeding while young people have managed to live and do not support their country, Podolyak said. His remarks echoed the stance earlier voiced by one of the Kyiv's key backers, Poland. Earlier this week, Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz also said the 27-state bloc should produce a joint decision on this matter. It is very important, and we talked about it, that these are solutions at the European level, and I know that lacks between Ukraine and Brussels, between Kyiv and Brussels are ongoing. Talks between Ukraine and Brussels, between Kyiv and Brussels are ongoing. On this topic, the Polish Minister of Defense, said during the press conference on Tuesday, solution at the European level will ensure full effectiveness of this action, he added. So, yes, pressure on Brussels is somewhat increasing, and as I predicted quite a while ago, Probably we are closing into the point when Brussels will come up with some solutions how to extradite Ukrainian military age male refugees to Ukraine, and maybe even females, who knows? Because well, Kyiv regime, Zelensky and his criminal associates and their Western masters will definitely sacrifice everybody for their personal gains and for geopolitical agenda that they are serving or trying to push. It's just too obvious. And well, people in Ukraine, if they are reading this news, if they have reached to information sources outside of Ukraine, where media is strictly controlled by Kyiv regime. Well, people should ask themselves then, why so many people left Ukraine and are not willing to fight and die for their country? Maybe they don't see Russia as a threat for anything Ukrainian or Ukrainians, Ukrainian language, Ukrainian style of life or whatever. Maybe that's the reason that people that left Ukraine realizing that Ukraine have been sacrificed by collective West, by Western ruling class in their geopolitical struggle with the rest of the world, not just with Russia, but with the global South, with the rest of the world. And they don't want to die and be pawns in this geopolitical game. Maybe that's the reason. Anyways, Ukrainian refugees in Europe, in collective West in general, they have to run away from there, man, before they have any time to do so. Because Brussels will act quite rapidly on this topic, I expect, and maybe in a couple of weeks' time, maybe in a month's time, probably we will see beginning of the mass deportations of Ukrainian male refugees. They will come up with some justifications, by the way. They will come up with some justifications for that. RT is reporting that, well, surprisingly, by the way, Foreign Minister of UK, David Cameron, come up with some more or less adequate statement. Maybe at least one advisor around him is clever enough to give him, to tell him what to say, at least periodically, so that the world did not see him as a total moron. But anyways, let's go through this news. Sending NATO soldiers to fight the Russian army in Ukraine would be too dangerous, British Foreign Secretary David Cameron said on Friday. He made his comments as European leaders have reignited the debate on whether the US-led alliance should consider more direct involvement in the conflict. Speaking to Sky News on Friday, Cameron said that the UK must continue to deliver weapons to Kyiv and focus on replenishing its own stocks as a national priority. But I would not have NATO soldiers in the country because I think that could be a dangerous escalation, the Prime Minister added. He is not Prime Minister, this is a mistake, I guess. Foreign Minister added. We were trained, I think, almost 60,000 Ukrainian soldiers. So Foreign Secretary's statement came after French President Emmanuel Macron once again refused to rule out potential deployment of NATO soldiers in Ukraine. We must not rule anything out because our objective is that Russia must never be able to win in Ukraine. He told Macron, told Economist in an interview published this week. Macron argued that the question of NATO boots on the ground could arise if the Russians were to break through the front lines and if Kyiv would request help. So, well, as I said, it is little surprising that David Cameron would come up with statement that he is against, and I guess London, at this point at least, against deployment of NATO troops into Ukraine because it's dangerous, and it is dangerous, by the way. And Foreign Minister of Hungary, Peter Szijjártó, says exactly that. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó has condemned their latest remarks from the French President Emmanuel Macron about the option of sending troops to Ukraine and has warned that such a move could ultimately spark an all-out nuclear war. Speaking to French broadcaster LCI on Thursday, Szijjártó was asked for his take on Macron's renewed threats to deploy his country's troops to back up Kyiv. The diplomat strongly condemned the idea, saying that the French leaders comments themselves have contributed to escalating the situation. If a NATO member commits ground troops, it will be a direct NATO-Russia confrontation, and it will then be World War III, Sijarto told their broadcasters. So yes, I agree with everything that Sijarto said, by the way. Deployment of Western troops definitely can provoke a direct all-out war between Russia and NATO. Although if behind the closed doors, Moscow, Washington, London, Paris per se, Brussels, Berlin will conduct, Warsaw, by the way, Budapest, Bucharest, will conduct, and other capitals, conduct negotiations with Moscow about disintegration of Ukraine, how Ukraine will be divided. And if NATO troops will stay just in Western Ukraine, which used to be part of now NATO member states, Hungary, Romania, and Poland, in that case, maybe it will be possible, and probably it will be possible, to avoid a full-out war between Russia and NATO forces, even if some skirmishes will occur between Russia and NATO troops on the ground. That will be local scale, and it would not provoke large-scale confrontation. But if NATO troops moved out from the Western Ukraine, that's a whole different story. In that case, I don't think how it will be even theoretically possible to avoid full-scale confrontation and nuclear war, and in that case, end of everything. So, I mean, Sijarto definitely has a point, and Western ruling class should listen to people like him that still have a common sense and are urging West not to escalate. Because eventually world may end up in World War III. It is what it is. And before I continue, dear friends, let me notice that this channel, this media project of mine, with several channels on YouTube, Rumble, on Telegram, on Patreon, of course, exists solely thanks to support of members of our community, and I will be immensely grateful if you will also consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Boosty. This is Boosty, by the way. Very convenient platform, convenient for me. You can donate, you can subscribe. After I was cancelled on Buy Me Coffee, I'm trying to actively use Boosty. And yes, I mean, through PayPal, you can donate through PayPal, Boosty, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page, by the way. And as I said yesterday during the headlines, whenever I have a new subscriber on Patreon, that makes my day for sure, because Patreon allows me to know what funds I have. It's a monthly paid subscription, and it does allow me to have an understanding of what funds I have for this month or next month, and it helps a lot. And well, maybe if I will have like 30 to 50 new subscribers on Patreon, maybe eventually, finally, this project will reach point when I don't have to every single month will I be able to continue next month and next month. So yes, I mean, if you can, please subscribe on Patreon, by the way, if you think this channel is interesting and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary. Because I'm gonna be honest, man, I'm a little tired of this constant struggle. It's hard, man, because this is only, I mean, only income I have is support from members of our community. I left my day job to devote all time to this project. Anyways, many thanks to all the members of our community who already supported and continues to support my work. Thank you very much. And let's continue with some additional news. I know, dear friends, many of you are hating when I'm mentioning this stuff, support of the channel and the rest of it, but I spend all day, every day on this project. As I said, I left my day job to produce I have some technical issues now. So, does it work? Sound probably does. Hopefully video will be okay. So yes, I mean, okay, enough talk, man. RIA Novosti's report that US, according to New York Times, US officials expect further Russian offensive operations to achieve more progress on the ground in upcoming days, due to 9th of May, day when we will celebrate here Victory Day in Russia, victory in a great patriotic war. And when I see this information, I mean, first what I was thinking is that how less they know us, how less those people in the West really know us, our mentality, because if they knew us, they will understand that calendar of celebrations has nothing to do with whatever we are doing, especially when it comes to military operations. But every year, by the way, last year and year before, Western media outlets and Western so-called politicians or experts were saying exactly the same, that Russia will try to establish control over this area and over that area before 9th of May because of the, some symbolic meanings and stuff. They were wrong every time, and they're gonna be wrong now also. But they're not gonna acknowledge this. Russia will continue its military operation based on situation on the ground, and it's a strategy and tactics, and calendar of celebration has nothing to do with it, man. Absolutely nothing. I don't know, man. I just wanted to highlight how delusional those people really are. But when it comes to Russian progress on the ground, it's unstoppable. It's unstoppable, and you all know my take on the situation. Once this conflict will end, Ukraine will be divided between its neighbors, and Russia will be in control of at least entire central, southern, and the northern parts of Ukraine, and western Ukraine will become most likely under control of NATO states. RBK News Agency is reporting that, well, head of Estonia's military made quite a dangerous statements. Quite a dangerous statement, and I want to translate this to be more precise, by the way. And let's go through this. The head of Estonia's defense forces, General Martin Herem, suggested that neighboring countries should consider the possibility of blockading the Baltic Sea so that the aggressor, and they mean Russia, of course, would not be able to deploy anti-ship and the missile defense there. His words are quoted in their Defense Force yearbook, which was published on May 3rd. And, well, how delusional this individual is, by the way. If you block Baltic Sea for Russia, that means you are blocking Kaliningrad region. And if you are blocking Kaliningrad region, then you are declaring war on Russia. And if you are declaring war on Russia, then you have just about 30 minutes to pray and say goodbye to everybody. That's it. But yet again, this so-called general in Estonia, Martin Herem, does understand this? I don't know. But can you imagine how many provocations these Baltic quasi-states, by the way, are conducting day in, day out, constantly? Constantly, by the way. Their extreme Russophobic leadership and extreme Russophobic elites in general in these quasi-states are constantly provoking Russia, man. Constantly, since the collapse of Soviet Union. And if Russia, at one point, if Moscow will say, you know what, I've had enough of your craziness, and I'm going to deal with you now. And if Moscow will take actions, then the Western ruling class is going to start crying that, just look at it, unprovoked actions from Russia, unprovoked, totally unprovoked. Yeah? That's how it's going to be, isn't it? And you tell me if this is not a provocation, man. This is basically declaration of war. If NATO will listen to this idiot, this so-called general of the Estonia, that will mean they are declaring war on Russia. Isn't it? Because if you are blocking Baltic Sea, take a look at the map, by the way. So this is Kaliningrad region of Russian Federation, and this is Baltic Sea, by the way. So if you are blocking Baltic Sea, for example, straight here, Gulf of Finland, for example, so in that case, Russian fleet cannot communicate with Kaliningrad from St. Petersburg, for example, and if you are blocking entrance to the Baltics from the Northern Sea, then Kaliningrad region is in blockade. Is in blockade because Russia has no land bridge to Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad encircled, basically, from one side it's Baltic Sea, from other side it's Poland, and from the north it's Lithuania. So of course it will mean declaration of the war on Russia. And how will Russia react in that case? Unbelievable, man. I mean, where those crazies have been found, man. I do understand that real rulers of the West are in shadows, and they are just pulling the strings. They are appointing those people here and there, and they are organizing these so-called elections and creating this illusion for people that they have some choice and there is elections and you have democracy. By the way, democracy. I'll give you my puppets, 2, 3, 5 of them, and you choose any of them, I win, you lose. But oh, democracy, you had the choice, isn't it? I mean, this game is old as you know. But people buying up for this shit, man. People are believing in this crap, isn't it? That they have democracy, they have elections there. Okay, of course. But anyways, man, whoever is in charge of the Western world and pulling these strings, where they are finding those idiots that they are then putting in a position of power. I mean, can they find little more adequate people for this job? Because it's just too much, really, man. Biden in the US, individual that barely can understand what is his fucking name, man, and who he is. Macron in France, I mean, clearly mentally ill individual. I mean, clearly. Scholz in Germany, I mean, pirate Scholz, man. He is not, I mean, he's just a wet place. I mean, mokre место. I mean, he is nobody, absolutely nobody. He has no say in anything at all. Sunak in UK, this idiot. Before him, Boris Johnson. I mean, come on, man. Is it possible for these real rulers of the West to pick some more adequate people that at least can talk properly, being high-ranking official, and not endangering entire world with their rhetoric. I don't know, man. I don't know, but I mean, look at this, man. Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, this is, I mean, something really extraordinary, man. They are fascists, I mean, openly fascists, openly Nazis, and it's okay for Brussels, man. It's okay for West. It's democracy. Estonian Nazis and fascists, they're Democrats because they are, you know, servants of the West, so they're okay for them. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. It really becomes hard to seriously comment certain developments and certain statements of high-ranking officials of the West, but because they are in position of power, you cannot ignore it either, isn't it? Anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that Russia reveals dramatic weapons production increase. Moscow is producing or refurbishing 350% more tanks than it did in 2022. The head of the Rostec defense conglomerate has stated, there has been a multifold increase in the production of weapons and munition in Russia since the outbreak of the conflict between Moscow and Kyiv in 2022. The head of the defense conglomerate Rostec has said. Sergei Chemizov told Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin during a meeting on Friday that around 80% of arms used by Russian military in the conflict are being supplied by Rostec. The conglomerate, which was established in 2007 on the orders of the President Vladimir Putin, involves more than 800 research and production organizations in Russia's defense sector. Compared to 2022, the production and refurbishing of tanks at our factories increased by 3.5 times, 350%, and of lightly armored vehicles by 3 times, 300% increase in production of infantry fighting vehicles, personal carriers, armored personal carriers, and so on. The manufacture of self-prepared artillery pieces has increased tenfold. Unbelievable, man. Artillery systems, production of artillery systems increased tenfold, man. It's unbelievable numbers. While 14 times more towered guns are being produced, and the production of the multiple rocket launch systems has doubled. Their output of ammunition rounds for tanks and the infantry fighting vehicles increased by 900%, artillery shells by 600%, and munition for MLRS by 800%. 3 times as many unguided rockets for heavy flamethrower systems are being produced, Chemizov said. According to the Rostec chief, new types of equipment have also been introduced during the conflict, such as TOS-2 heavy flamethrower system, which are capable of firing munition with their thermobaric warheads and are widely used in the area of the military operations. Земледелие remote mine laying systems are also being produced, as well as Krasnopol guided shells, Kub loitering munition, and guided missiles for drones. Rostec is also working with the GSC Tactical Missile Corporation to equip standard aviation bombs with the guided modules and the guidance systems, he said. The Washington Post reported in March that the use of guide bombs, which can travel long distance and have high precision, has dramatically boosted the effectiveness of the Russian Air Force. The Independent wrote last month that those munitions have been changing the face of the conflict between Moscow and Kyiv. Well, guide bombs definitely having huge impact on the battlefield, but I don't think only them are game changers. I mean, drones, by the way, drones definitely are game changers also, sort of. Drones are changing military warfare itself, and from now on, military conflicts not gonna be the same. They're gonna adapt to this new type of warfare that we are seeing in between Russia and NATO, basically. So drones, of course, drones play a huge role also, and there are many other weapon systems also, but drones definitely, drones and guided bombs definitely had a huge impact. Anyways, let's continue. By the way, numbers are quite impressive, isn't it? Numbers of production of weapons and weapon systems and munition, quite impressive. RIA Novosti is reporting that Qatar is ready to repel from its territory high-ranking officials of the Hamas. Interesting information that was written, that was published by Times of Israel. Well, Hamas leaders for a long time were stayed there in Qatar, but maybe things are changing. Maybe things are changing, and well, when it comes to leadership of Hamas, I don't really care about any of them. In my eyes, they all are terrorists, so who cares? All I care really is civilians to be safe. That's all, really. Hamas, take them all out, man. They are terrorists. And maybe this is a part of pressure on Hamas, so that they will agree on some peace initiatives that Israel had. Although, by the way, it's also a difficult situation there, because in one hand, Israeli government is saying that we give you 1 week now to agree on our peace proposal. Although, regardless of your decision, we will conduct military operation in Rafah anyway. So what kind of negotiations is that? I don't get it. If Israel is still willing to go ahead with its military operation in Rafah, which will possibly cause tens of thousands of deaths of civilians, then about what kind of negotiations or peace they are talking about? Leadership of Israel. They are terrorists also, by the way. I mean, leadership of Hamas, leadership of Israel, they are terrorists. Terrorists, and should be prosecuted for their crimes, by the way. That's my take on this situation. RT is reporting that US warns of new nuclear threat from China. Okay, interesting. US regards China's plans to deploy floating nuclear reactors that could power military facilities as a threat to regional security, the Washington Post reported on Thursday. After more than a decade of research and development, China is said to be inching closer to the construction of its first floating nuclear power plant. Beijing has stated that the facility could provide electricity and heat to remote areas, islands, and offshore oil and gas platforms. US officials claim that Beijing will use floating reactors to power military bases on artificial islands it has built in the southern China Sea, arguing that the move would destabilize their entire Asia-Pacific. Well, this technology itself is nothing new. Russia has floating nuclear power stations for a long time, and maybe Russian and Chinese scientists were cooperating, and maybe China is in position now to build on its own this floating nuclear power station, or maybe with Russian support, with support of Russian scientists. It is possible, and this power station itself, I don't think is any more dangerous than any other power station. And US, definitely in this case, US officials, they don't care about safety of power stations themselves. All they care is about increased influence of China in the region. And of course, with floating power stations, they can, provide energy not just to its own islands and bases or whatever, but it's a business, by the way. They can do business with their neighbors and provide them with electricity by deploying these floating power stations. It's a big business. And well, the US is not happy about it, but US always not happy, man. US officials, I mean. US officials are never happy. I mean, any success of anybody in this world makes US leadership upset. That's it, because they want to be in charge of everything, everywhere. And if anything is happening without them, or they being in control, then they are upset. Well, drink cold water, man. It might help. Who knows? RIA Novosti's report that G7 countries are no longer discussing confiscation of Russian assets, according to Western media, Financial Times, for example, which is quite surprising. Although, by the way, maybe finally experts in the Western world managed to reach politicians, managed to explain to them that confiscating or stealing of Russian assets will have devastating consequences for Western financial and banking system, for Western economical stability. Maybe, although I still believe that they will steal these assets anyway, one way or another. And now, by the way, they have US is very active, US leadership is very active to steal these assets. And they come up with a somewhat different idea now. So they want to steal 50 billion of Russian assets, profits from frozen Russian assets. So they're not going to give Russia not just frozen assets, but also profits that those assets are generating. And US, Washington come up with the idea to allocate for Kyiv regime 50 billion, additional $50 billion, to do so and finance it, and finance this another fund with profits from frozen Russian assets, which will generate about $5 billion a year, according to media. Euroclears, for example, every single year probably will generate about 500 billion profits. $5 billion profits every year. So maybe G7 not yet actively working on stealing entire Russian assets, but they have no issues right now, as I understand, to steal profits from Russian frozen assets. If it's any better, by the way, if it makes them look any better for the rest of the world. Stealing is stealing. It is what it is, man. Why they are playing so much games around this topic, man? They already destroyed the reputation of the Western financial and banking system. They already did it, and it's only a matter of time, I believe. And BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organizations, with cooperating with some other organizations in this world that have independence from the Western ruling class, will definitely come up with alternative financial and banking system, alternative currency, world reserve currency, and this process is unstoppable, by the way. I might want this process to be faster, to develop faster, but it will happen anyways. It will happen anyways, and after that, of course, Western ruling class will finally lose its grip on this world when they are able to threaten anybody for anything, and by freezing their assets, stealing basically their assets, not allowing to operate with this currency or that currency. They have weaponized, Western ruling class weaponized this financial and banking system that they have quite effectively, really, and everyone understands that they cannot be trusted no more, ever. And same goes for Western currencies, of course. Lentaru is reporting that Sweden, by the way, reacted. This is also interesting. How long is this update, man? It's 49 minutes already. And quite a number of news. Okay, at least I will go through headlines. So Sweden, by the way, reacted on Chinese initiative to conduct an investigation on Nord Stream pipelines. And let me give you Swedish reaction. Sweden rejected China's proposal to conduct an international investigation into the explosions on the Nord Stream and the Nord Stream 2 pipelines, as it considers such a measure to be useless. Representatives of the Swedish Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated this in a conversation with the RIA Novosti. There is no need for an international investigation. It will not give anything. The Foreign Ministry stated so. Yes, of course there is no need, by the way. Of course there is no need to investigate anything because why? Why should world conduct investigation and publicly blame US and Norway and possibly some other NATO member states in act of international terrorism? Because we all know with what conclusions international investigation would come up. Seymour Hersh, award-winning US journalist, already said everything. And there is no reason to doubt information or sources of Seymour Hersh. He is an award-winning journalist for a reason. But I mean, this is quite something, by the way, that Sweden is openly saying that, you know what, don't do it, don't conduct any investigations, please. Unbelievable, man. I guess Sweden is involved in this crime also, man, because they could say something differently, that you know, but they say straight up no investigations needed. Suspicious. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that Georgian Prime Minister, by the way, accused I will translate this also, by the way. So Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Kobakhidze, announced a conversation with the senior advisor to the head of the US State Department on policy issues, Derek Chollet, about the American side's financial support for the revolutionary processes in Georgia, reports the correspondent of the newspaper Vzglyad in Tbilisi. I spoke with the Derek Chollet and expressed to him my sincere disappointment over the two attempts of the revolution, so-called revolution, by the way, regime change. That's what we are talking about. Two attempts of regime change in 2020 and 2023 with the support of the ex-US ambassador, Kelly Degnan. Kelly Degnan was ambassador at the time in Georgia. And foreign funded NGOs. The head of the Georgian government wrote on a social network. According to him, if these attempts were successful, a second front would be open in Georgia today. So, Prime Minister of Georgia is openly blaming, basically, US of not just interference in Georgian internal politics, but also in destabilizing attempts of Georgia and also in attempts to not just conduct regime change, but also to use Georgia as a second front against Russia and basically sacrifice it. Everything that I was saying, by the way, for so long have been confirmed by Prime Minister of Georgia. Maybe with different words, but that's what it is, really. I also explained to Derek Chollet, this is a quote from Kobakhidze's statement, I also explained to Derek Chollet that the false statements disseminated by representatives of the US State Department about the Transparency of Foreign Influence Act, that's how they call the law about foreign agents, and actions remind us of similar false statements by the former American ambassador, which served to support revolutionary processes and violence from entities receiving foreign funds, said Irakli Kobakhidze. So, well done, by the way, well done. I said yesterday in my second update on Patreon that never in my life I see anything like that to happen in Georgia. And I am from Georgia originally, by the way. I was born in Georgia and raised in Georgia, and so I know Georgia quite well, and Georgian politics. And this is the first time when high-ranking official of Georgia directly criticizing collective West in general, but in this particular case, US leadership, for interference and for attempts to destabilize and then sacrifice Georgia. This is a big change, by the way. This is a big change for Georgia. And at the same time, by the way, Georgian Foreign Ministry also made a statement and criticized Foreign Ministry of France, which on its terms criticized Georgian police for dispersing aggressive mob from in the streets of Tbilisi that was protesting against this so-called foreign agent law. And that aggressive mob was called into the streets by, of course, US-controlled so-called opposition, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and the media that are receiving funds from the US in general, mainly, or from the West. And the Georgian foreign minister said that, well, France is definitely in no position and has no moral high ground to criticize anybody when it comes to actions of the police, because we all know how French police were acting when there was protests in France. And it's true, by the way, and that's why I'm a little amazed. Some changes are happening definitely in Georgia, and I hope maybe it's awakening time for Georgian leadership and elites in general. Who knows? But this is a big change, and I hope think tanks in Georgia, experts, analytics, they will work hard to identify all possible threats that Washington may create for Georgia by using their assets in Georgia. And also, by the way, Georgian government should keep in mind that Armenia currently is controlled by Washington also, and Washington may use their assets in Armenia against Georgia. This is also an important topic. And hopefully they will be serious brainstorm in Georgia to make sure that they worked out every possible scenario of destabilization that Washington may come up with, so that countermeasures will be taken, preventive measures will be taken, because this former Soviet Republic is entering really difficult time of its development. So, I mean, it is what it is, man. And I want Georgia to be prosperous, by the way, and peaceful. And first time since the collapse of Soviet Union, Georgia lived under current leadership, by the way, which may be criticized for many reasons, but what is factual also, that first time since the collapse of Soviet Union, Georgia had a peaceful decade, by the way, without any conflicts, any armed conflicts. And this is an achievement, by the way. This is achievement, and the Georgian government has to do everything to continue on this path of peaceful development. That's the only way forward, man. And well, good luck to them, man, because they are entering really difficult times, and they have extremely dangerous enemies. US intelligence services, by the way, French intelligence services, UK's intelligence services. This Western political class, by the way, if they want to conduct regime change in Georgia and sacrifice Georgia, then well, that's quite an enemy to have, really. And the Georgian government hopefully understands that and will take all necessary measures to be ready for whatever provocations have been planned by the Western ruling class. Anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that, well, this update gonna be long, man. It's already hour. Should I stop now? Okay, just one more news and I will end this update. This is not the EU that Hungary joined, according to Orban. Budapest did not subscribe to same-sex marriages or war with Russia when it became a member of the EU. Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, stated. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has decried the state of European Union, claiming it is almost unrecognizable from the bloc that Budapest joined 20 years ago. Orban was a strong supporter of the move in 2003, when Hungarians overwhelmingly voted for the country to become an EU member. The country's accession was finalized on May 1st of the following year. However, the policies of the EU have significantly changed since then, the Hungarian leader noted during his regular Friday appearance on Kossuth radio. He still believes that being part of the Union is in their national interests, but listed several points on which he disagrees with Brussels. When Budapest joined the bloc, it did not expect to be forced to take in immigrants from other parts of the world, or pressured over its constitutional protection of the family, defined as being based on a marriage between man and a woman, Orban said. Accession was not about the EU, accession was not the European leaders maneuvering the continent into a war instead of peace, he added, referring to the arming of Ukraine against Russia. The Prime Minister urged EU citizens to vote in the upcoming European parliamentary elections for parties that support peaceful resolutions of the Ukraine conflict, including the Orban-led Fidesz party in Hungary. If a significant number of pro-peace candidates become MPs in Europe, MEPs, we can have a European Parliament that does not push European leaders towards war, but pulls Europe back from the edge of their abyss, he argued. Earlier this week, Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó said that Budapest would oppose a plan proposed by NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg to establish €100 billion 5-year aid scheme for Kyiv. So, well, interesting. By the way, I said many times that Hungarian leadership is respected worldwide for a reason. And I mean, who can argue with the statements of the Orban right here? Everything he says is understandable, logical, isn't it? So, you know, and that's why they hate him, by the way. That's why Brussels hate, and Brussels officials, they hate Orban and his government members. Peter Szijjártó, for example, great foreign minister, by the way. Well done to him, to Orban. They're doing great job for Hungary, by the way, and Hungary's security and best interests, in my understanding. Anyways, I will end this update, by the way, if I may, because it's, I mean, I still have a number of news left, but update is too long already. And it's Saturday, isn't it? Because I have no day off, by the way, sometimes I'm forgetting what day it is. So yes, it's Saturday, so yes, happy weekend, by the way. Happy weekend, everybody. And well, this is it for now. If you find this update informative, interesting, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. Let's challenge algorithm as we always do, or at least try. Maybe we will manage to deal with the algorithm this time also, and in that case, who knows, maybe algorithm will start showing my videos in recommendations. But anyways, thank you for your attention. And yes, this is it. What else to say? If you want to support my work, you can do it by subscribing to my Patreon page, or with small donations through PayPal or Boosty. All the links under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care. Bye.